Welcome back to Beyond the Wrench. My name is Jay Goninen, and I am your host. Today, I'm joined by Christian Spell, a high school senior and SkillsUSA officer who's already making a big impact in the world of skilled trades. We're going to talk about his experience with SkillsUSA, leadership, competition, and why organizations like this are helping shape the next generation of the automotive and diesel industries. Looking forward to this conversation today. Christian, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. I will say in our conversation leading up to this, or we had a couple conversations leading up to this, I've been blown away by your energy and just how positive of a person you are. It feels like just a great person going into kind of the end of high school, right? You're getting close to graduating.
Yes, sir. This is I had my last day of high school yesterday, so
Oh wow! Congratulations. How you feeling?
it felt a little bit surreal. I've spent the last 4 years waking up, doing the same, not necessarily the same thing, but same general concept every single day, and it's all about to change. A big, uh, for lack of better terms, big wrench thrown into everything that I'm used to. So it'll be a new
Yeah.
experience, but I'm very, very excited for what's to come.
Well, cool. So tell us a little bit about where you're from, what high school you're at, and kind of what part of the country you're in.
So I live in a small town in North Carolina known as Autryville. I'm about 30 minutes outside of Fayetteville and an hour or so outside of Raleigh. I go to a school called Midway High School. It's a very small area. My graduating class is 171, so it's not quite as small as yours, but it's smaller compared to a lot more areas within North Carolina and outside of North Carolina. But growing up where I have, I've been led to the automotive industry a lot. A lot of people that I know are very involved in automotive, with whether that's working on tractors, working on trucks, everything like that. And I'm a sports car guy myself, so automotive has always been one of those things that I've just loved and been very interested in.
And it was a part of your kind of family history, right? You've had family involvement in this world for a long time.
Yes, sir. So my granddad was the founder and CEO of Warren Oil Company. We were based out of Dunn, North Carolina, which is about 20 minutes from my house. And we've had different plants all throughout the United States, and we've sold oil in all countries. And actually, the very first Mazda RX-7 had Warren Oil in it. So
What?
that's yep, the very first RX-7, it had Warren Oil in it. And I have one of the promotional posters from Japan when it first started. So that
Oh
was,
my gosh!
yep. That's one of those little facts I like to sprinkle in there.
Did you get that framed? The poster? That seems like
Yes,
a
sir.
really cool keepsake.
Yes, sir.
Oh, how cool is that? So in the oil world, I mean, were you able to go see some of the different places and kind of travel a little bit to kind of see some of the business?
So not really. So we sold the old company in 2016. So I wasn't around for a lot of the travel and stuff. And when I was younger, that was mainly my dad that was traveling around. We were meeting with Exxon, Chevron, Mobile One, Napa. We used to make the private label for Napa's oil.
Wow,
Yep.
how
So
cool is that?
I was never really around for that. AutoZone as well. I'm not sure if we made the private label for AutoZone. I know we made the private label oil for Family Dollar. They were one of our largest customers, and we sold a lot to AutoZone. So that
That's
was
insane.
yep. We learned a lot about this just from listening to my dad talk. He gets on his high horse, starts rambling on about all the stuff that he's done. So yeah,
Well,
very cool to hear about.
as we were talking, you were mentioning your father and that you inadvertently ran into him at the Dallas airport, and both of you were in security line or having security line issues trying to get through with some of the TSA complications that we've had lately. It sounds like your dad's still traveling quite a bit.
Yes, sir. So he's working for a company based out of Ohio right now, known as Pro Fluids LLC, and they're more of he's an outside broker for the company, and the company is more so just a distributor of the oil rather than actually doing the refinery and making the bottles and private labels and everything. But I was in the Dallas airport. I had a layover from a San Diego trip where I traveled with Skills USA for some training, and I was in the airport and I was walking past the security line and I saw my dad standing there. He was there meeting with AIOD, which is the Association of Independent Oil Dealers. He had a meeting with them in Dallas, and I seen him in the line, and I yelled, I was like, "Dad!" And he looked up, and then he finally got through the line, and he said, "Where are you going?" I was like, "I'm coming home. I've been in San Diego. Where are you going?" He said, "Oh, I'm flying to Houston, then I'm going home." But as we were talking about earlier, he's very picky about which flights he gets on. And I was flying American home, and he's not the biggest fan of American, so he took the flight from Dallas to Houston and Houston to RDU just so he could get on a Southwest flight. So
Oh man, I had told you before. I think your dad and I have a lot in common. I've gotten
yeah,
somewhat picky over the years, probably a little too snobby at times for my wife's liking, but I definitely I feel his pain, and I think when you travel a lot, you kind of have those little things that can make your experience really good or really bad. And when
yeah,
it's really bad, it's really really bad. So
yeah.
it's very very interesting. So awesome that you've had that kind of background growing up, and then that kind of parlayed once you got into school and kind of
Mm,
maybe taking some classes, right?
yeah. So with our involvement in the oil industry and everything, and when I was younger, so my granddad, he was diagnosed with back cancer when he was, I'm not sure his exact age, but it was around 2016, 2017. And he had never really splurged on himself or anything like that. But the day that he got diagnosed with cancer, he went to a car dealership and he bought a brand new Mustang GT 500 in the 5 or
Nice.
6 speed manual. Yep, and he would drive me around in that thing, and he would drive a little bit recklessly, but it was very very exciting for a very young me. And I'm not sure how happy he would have been that with my car selection. I'm more of a Chevrolet guy myself. I have a
Oh boy.
2010 Camaro SS. Yep. And so the reason I think he would like it was he was very big in NASCAR. We had a car in NASCAR that was branded with our family logo. I think I'd have to double
Oh well,
check
that's
that.
cool.
I'm not sure if
I
it was
need you
in
to.
the.
I'm a big NASCAR fan, so if you
Yep.
find a photo of this, I want you to send it to me because I geek out over
Yep.
any kind of racing. But having that history, it'd be so cool to see a picture of it.
I'm not sure if the car was Cup Series, or I know he was big with NHRA. John Force, I know John Force was one of his good friends, and they would talk
Wow.
a lot and everything. Yep. And the race where John Force's daughter, outraced him that day. My granddad was at that race.
No way.
Yep. So that was
Ah,
very interesting for us. So
that is so cool.
yeah,
And what an amazing, I guess, entry into the industry too. Just
yep.
that exposure to a lot of really really cool things, and then
Mm.
being able to not only take that exposure, but then as you are starting to actually learn about cars and how they work and maybe how to fix them, uh, did that kind of, I mean, the mechanical side, did it come somewhat natural to you and like just wanting to kind of work on things?
Definitely the urge to want to work on something definitely came with being across everything, because I love my dad to death, but he's not a mechanic by any means. And every time he has to fix something, he says, "Oh, I'm not a mechanic." He says, "I sell the stuff for people to put on the car. I don't put it on the car myself." So growing up around that, I never really thought that I would become interested in it, but I rode in that Mustang that day, and I was like, "Yep."
This
And
is
he
it.
over the years he got it, he tuned it up and everything, put some cool parts on it. And well, he didn't do it himself. We had people working for him that would go and do it for him. And I was like, yep, I love watching this. I'm very interested in this. This is something that I could definitely see myself being a part of. So that was when I kind of knew that automotive and the automotive industry was where I wanted to go.
Oh man. So then when you do get into school, you mentioned maybe being a little bit of a smaller school. Do you have an automotive program? Do you have maybe avenues to be able to really kind of dive in and learn this stuff?
So our automotive program, we're the number one CTE program in the county, meaning that my school's automotive program, we produce the most career-ready employees out of any CTE program in our county. We have a
Wow.
very nice automotive program, and a fun fact about that was my automotive teacher. His dad worked for my granddad and worked on all of our equipment. The 18-wheelers used to ship oil and everything, and my automotive teacher, his name's Mr. Vernon Blackman, he would work on some of my granddad's vehicles and everything, and knew my granddad kind of on a personal level. But he didn't recognize me when we first met, so I signed up for the automotive class when we were registering before my freshman year. So I got into school, I start taking the class, and I was telling him a lot of stuff about oil. And he was sitting there, he just kind of looked at me funny. He was like, "How do you know all of this?" He's like, "You're a young kid. I don't understand how you know all of this stuff." And he was like, I was like, "Oh, my granddad was Irvin Warren, you know." And he was like, "Irvin Warren?" He's like, "Well, Warren oil?" and done? I was like, yes, sir. And then he went down this rabbit hole, telling me all these crazy stories of stuff he'd worked on and him helping his dad work on my granddad's stuff and everything. And I was like, wow, this is a very full circle right here.
Isn't that cool though? Like to kind
Yes.
of connect the dots and see, one, what type of impact your grandfather had in being able to supply jobs to people, and then to have that person, your teacher, turn kind of that passion into educating others. That kind of that echo effect, or the ability, the ripple effect to be able to impact others. You look at kind of the layers of maybe a foundation that your grandfather set, and how cool that is, that the impact has really gone far beyond him, right? You're starting to see that extension in a lot of places.
So, Warren Oil, we were the largest private oil company in America at one point. So knowing that, like that was already crazy enough, but they were also very involved in the local community. My granddad was on the city board, and my mom, she owned a lot. She owned a couple restaurants and some music joints up and around everything. So him knowing my granddad was not a shock to me, because it feels like everywhere I go, it's
Everybody did.
is your mama Wendy Warren, or is your granddad Irvin Warren? And so I was very used to people recognizing me based off of my mom and my granddad and everything, and my dad more so in this area. But my mom, she doesn't even go to Dunn anymore, and she says, "Oh, too many people recognize me." I'm like, "Mom, you are not a celebrity." I said, "There's no way people are recognizing you." So I had an award ceremony coming up for my sophomore year, just recognizing academic achievements and everything. And we go to Dunn, we go to the local Belk, and we're in there, and I'm trying to just get me some nice clothes to wear for this thing. And we were in that store for 2 hours because of different people coming up and talking to my mom, reminiscing on the good old days. And yeah, I remember my mom, she had a beach music club. It was called Club Faces. And I'm not sure if you know a lot about the Carolina shag industry and everything, but
Uh-uh.
it's called beach music, and it's a very specific kind of, it was a very popular dance in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, still popular to this day. It's very popular in the around Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, that area.
Okay.
And so a lot of people, would go to my mom's club. We had live music. Percy Sledge played in there. Leonard Skinner. So what was left of the band
Dang.
after the plane crash, they performed in my mom's nightclub, and I have signatures from all the original band members from Leonard Skinner
Whoa.
after the plane crash.
That is awesome.
So, yep. So we were in that boat for 2.5 hours. I'm standing there. I'm leaned over the shopping cart. I'm about half asleep, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not bringing her back to Dunn with me ever again. Yeah, I want to go home. I thought we were in and out just here to get our clothes, but
Not the
we got
case.
back to we got back to the car, and I was like, Mom, you might be a celebrity. Maybe my judgment was wrong."
Oh my goodness, is that funny? If you're an automotive, diesel, or collision instructor, or an educator helping students explore these careers, this is for you. Building relationships with local shops takes time, and knowing who's willing to help isn't always clear. ASE Connects, in partnership with WrenchWay, brings schools and industry together on one easy online platform at no cost for schools. At the heart of ASE Connects is School Assist, the online resource that lets you post exactly what your program needs. From guest speakers, shop tours, tools, advisory committee members, career fair participants, and even student job opportunities, shops can see your requests and respond directly to you. You'll also get access to instructor-focused resources, webinars, and templates designed to save time and strengthen industry partnerships. Even if your school doesn't have a formal auto or diesel program, you can still participate to help connect interested students with real-world opportunities. ASE Connects is free for schools. Get started at wrenchway.com/solutions/schools or use the link in the show notes. So, talk to me more about the class itself. When you're in school and you get kicked off in these classes, you obviously had that interest, and you're starting to learn about some of the basics. And I'm assuming that's around kind of repair, and just general maybe safety around the cars, and making sure that you're doing it right. Did that part click right away when you're starting to kind of get your hands dirty a little bit and like, hey, this is actually pretty cool?
So when we started, we didn't start off in the automotive shop. We started with are you familiar with SP2?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we did a 2-week SP2 safety course online, all the virtual modules and everything before we got started into the actual getting in the engine bay and working on the cars and everything. So we did this one lesson. The very first week was about lift safety, proper lifting points on vehicles, making sure everybody's clear of the lift before you let it down. It was just common sense stuff. So we got through that and I was like, yep, okay, yeah, this makes sense. And then there was another section that was about chemicals and everything and talk about the different viscosities of oil. And I was like, okay, yep, I'm right at home in this classroom right here. And I finished before everybody else with the viscosity stuff. And yeah, I told
I
my
imagine.
teacher,
I'd hope.
yep,
I'd hope so. If you didn't, I'd be concerned.
yep. And I went up to my teacher. I said, "Hey, I'm finished with the safety stuff." And then he was like, "Well, what was that second module about?" It was like, "Oh, handling chemicals and mixtures with antifreeze and oil and everything." He was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense." But we with Warren Oil, we didn't just produce just oil. It was hydraulic fluids, any kind of oil fluid you can think of. We had it. So I was very familiar with a lot more stuff than most people. I was very lucky to be around what I was around when I was growing up, and that whole side of everything just came very naturally to me.
I can imagine
Mm.
growing up in that world. Can't help but be familiar with it, and I'm sure as you're kind of taking this class, you're starting to learn really kind of maybe the application side of it then too,
Yep.
right? Where
Yep.
you've probably heard a lot of stories from your family about the oil side of it, but then as you're diving more and more into maybe the technical side of the car, maybe that you're kind of piecing stuff together, right? Because you're okay, I've heard about this stuff before. I know about this stuff. And then it probably helps you kind of lead into to more success as you're going through the program even further.
So, I mean, coming alongside with that, it's been drilled in my head since I was a little kid that oil is what makes the world go around. And I've always had that basic understanding of, oh, everything needs oil. But as I started in these automotive classes and I started traveling with Skills USA, and I'm really starting to see the applications of everything, it really, I'm not saying that I didn't understand how important oil was and everything, but it's just seeing how it applied to everything, and more specifically the automotive industry with my classroom and traveling around and working on stuff with everybody. It really made me understand how important, not necessarily just, understanding how important this is, but understanding how these things work and how to fix these things when problems arise.
It's funny that you bring that up because I had a similar experience, not in the oil world, but grew up in a shop.
Mhm.
And I kind of maybe took it for granted at some level of that. I almost assume like everybody's got these tools, everybody's got this, a hoist to work on a car, and you don't. I don't know. I think when it's what you've been surrounded by your entire life, you don't really put much thought into it, and you maybe think or make assumptions that everybody else is kind of like you, or that they have some of the resources that you do in terms of tooling, or whatever it might be. But then in reality, you kind of, and for me over time, it's been a long time since I've been in your situation, right? It's been, graduated a long time ago. But looking back, and then I moved away from home for a long time, from my hometown, and then I was the one experiencing well, I don't have this stuff, and it was really
Yep.
nice when I did have this stuff, and
Yep.
now I feel the pain of it. So it is a little bit of you almost become numb to it because you're around it so long that you assume kind of everybody has that same knowledge base or those
Yep.
same experiences. But then once you get out into the world, you kind of see not everybody has some of this stuff, and being
Yep.
able to have those resources to use is really, really helpful.
Yep. And that was one of the big parts of Skills USA that I appreciated so much, because while I'm very well versed in certain areas, there's a lot of areas that I'm not very familiar with. So one of my good friends from Skills USA, he's another national officer. He's very big in the culinary industry. That's his CTE pathway. And I've never put much thought into how important some of these things are, but then, you meet him and then you work with him and it's just like, wow, like there's so much more that I don't know that I'm very interested in learning about. And I work with so many well-versed people in their own specific areas. And that's something that I appreciate a lot about Skills USA, is while we're all there on one common term of, the skilled trades are very important, all of our skilled trades are very different. So coming from North Carolina's Skills USA program, masonry is our biggest thing. We have the largest masonry competition in the nation.
Wow.
So meeting these people who work in the masonry industry and are competing in the masonry industry with Skills USA, and I listen to them talk about everything that they are so well versed in and everything that they feel is so important to them and what they think is common knowledge. I'm just like, wow, like I'm a little bit more out of touch than I thought. So that was a great eye opener that I needed, and I feel like everybody kind of needs to see that. Hey, you don't know everything. You're not gonna know everything. And it's very important to meet these people from all these different areas and industries and learn how to work with them and see what impact you can create together with these skill sets that you have.
Let's talk more about Skills USA. I have mentioned to a lot of people within Skills USA of how important it's been in my life, and I've been really involved with it for probably almost 20 years now. And I'm not as actively involved as I was a couple years ago, but for several years, I was the technical chair for the state of Wisconsin's diesel
Mm.
competition and always took a lot of pride in that. Always thought it was so exciting. The competition itself was exciting. It's a lot of work to kind of get it up and running, but when you do, kind of the reward from the industry side that you get out of it was always just incredible, right? The amount
Yeah.
of talented young people you get to talk to, the amount of nerves the day of
Mhm.
when you're talking to the students and trying to go through that competition. It really is a cool competition, and I think anybody that's not been to a competition, at least to check it out, right? Like you
Mhm.
can walk through and kind of see everything. You're doing yourself a disservice because it is just it is an event. It is really really cool.
So, Skills USA, we are the number one workforce development organization for students. So, 52% of Gen Z is not looking to enter a 4-year university or going to get a degree from college and entering these more, not, well, I can't think of the word, not manufacturing, but these more sales jobs, marketing jobs, and things like that. A lot of people are looking to totally skip over college and university and everything along those lines. And they're looking to do hands on work and fill these jobs that we need. So with the skilled trades gap, we are looking for about 400,000 skilled trades employees for the future because we have a lot of these jobs that aren't being filled because for so long it was distilled into everybody's minds that the way to live is you go to college, you get a 4-year degree, you go and work your 9 to 5, and that's where you go from there. So that has caused this large gap in skilled trade workers that we are needing. And with Skills USA, we're giving students the opportunities to learn these skills, showcase these skills, and receive job opportunities, job offers, and internship opportunities from competing in these areas and working in these fields. So Skills USA is so important to me because with this background that I've had, I've seen how important it is to not only have these people that can sell the oil and travel around and go doing all this stuff, but without the people there to apply these things, then we have nothing. The
Yeah.
world stops spinning if people stop working. So there's a lot of older people that are more involved in these hands-on jobs, but a lot of younger people for the longest time were not very interested in entering these fields. So with Skills USA, we're creating excitement and building energy around these jobs and showing, hey, there's been this negative stigma around not going to college and going to a community college or a technical school. And we're here to break that stigma and show these students, say, hey, these jobs are very important, arguably more important than some of these jobs that you can go to college and get a 4-year degree for. Let's get you in this field. Let's give you the right skills and the right preparation to build you up in this industry and to show you the ropes and teach you everything. But Skills USA, we're not only here teaching these hands-on skills, we have the Skills USA framework, which was developed by a lot of large industries that are the soft, not soft skills, but the personal skills that employers are looking for. So like your communication, teamwork, leadership, skills along those lines. Working in a shop, you can get all the hands-on skills that you need. But with Skills USA, we're not only giving you opportunities to learn all these hands-on skills, but we're teaching you these employability skills that businesses and industries are looking for to make you a more suitable candidate for the workforce.
Yeah, and even as you're talking, as polished as you are going through this, I have to imagine Skills USA has really helped you kind of polish up some of this stuff, right? And I know
Yeah.
I mentioned to you earlier that I used to, and I haven't lately, but you have like an annual leadership conference,
Mhm.
and I don't know if I'm saying that correctly in terms of what it is, but I was always a part of a round table where we would talk in front of a group of students, and they would ask us questions about industry, and just hearing every single one of them and how polished they were in their approach, and honestly like mature beyond their years in most cases, similar to you in having this conversation. It feels like you're mature beyond your years. How much of Skills USA has how much has Skills USA helped you in that regard to kind of polish up some of those professional skills as a whole?
Well, along the speaking skills and the networking skills and everything, I would give 100% of the abilities that I've learned to Skills USA. Skills USA
Wow.
has completely changed my life. It has totally polished these skills that I'm looking for to become employable and to make industries look for me and look for students like me. And just being able to represent what Skills USA can do for a student with what I know and what Skills USA has taught me is so important to me. But that's the great part about Skills USA is because at these competitions and at these events where you're competing and you're doing your hands-on works. So let's go, we're automotive here. Let's go with our automotive maintenance light repair competition, for example. In this competition, before you're even allowed to compete, you have to build a professional resume that you have to submit before you're allowed to compete. And there's an interview process while you're competing or after you're competing. So not only are you there, are you working on the car and you're learning different things about working on a car and you're showing off your skills to industry leaders about working on cars, but you're also learning how to present yourself to people in this industry and you're learning how to present yourself to others and how to connect with people, how to ask the right questions and just to build that interest around entering the industry. And Skills USA, you're so connected with so many people that have been in the industry and are industry and business leaders that it's given students the opportunity to show off these skills.
Absolutely. And I helped, or I ran an interview station one year at our local Wisconsin Skills USA competition, and I was blown away. I actually, this competition that I'm referring to, I actually had to help out in a different area because I got a last minute call. I was supposed to
Mhm.
be traveling and then I wasn't traveling. So they asked me to come judge the interview station, and you get the resume up front, and then you're interviewing them similar to what I would do if I were interviewing somebody for one of my businesses. And so you're sitting there and you're talking to the person, and that was where it really, I don't know why it clicked with me, but that the professional skill level that so many young people were coming to me with through that competition, and some of them you could tell were nervous, right? They're nervous. The student is nervous coming to talk to you, but they still fought through it anyway, right? And I think that's very similar to real life where you're going out to an interview. Oftentimes an interview is a very awkward thing to do for everybody,
Mhm.
right? For the interviewer, for the interviewee, but kind of fighting through those nerves and kind of learning that personal skill is something you just can't fake, right? You
Yeah.
have to go through it, and that gives these students such an opportunity to kind of break through that barrier of, okay, this isn't so bad. Like
Yeah.
this is I can talk to these people. They're normal people, they're regular people that are running these businesses, and I think it, from a student's perspective, has to help you out a little bit just to have those conversations with really experienced folks.
And that's why I think Skills USA goes so hand in hand with career and technical education. Because with career and technical education, you're learning the skills that you would need to go and get one of these jobs. But with Skills USA, you're not only getting to showcase these skills that you know, but you're getting the opportunity to learn more skills that are more about yourself rather than what you can do. If you can present yourself, you can present anything. And Skills
Oh,
USA definitely teaches you how to present yourself, how to communicate with people in this industry, and how to communicate with people just in a regular conversational setting, but hold yourself in a professional manner. And that's a problem that a lot of younger people and some older people have is they know they can tell you everything about an engine or they can tell you everything about laying brick, but their conversational skills and their interview professional setting skills aren't where they need to be. And with Skills USA, we're not only teaching you these skills that you can do with your hands, but we're also teaching you how to explain and how to present yourself with these skills.
oh, I I hope we can clip what you just said there, because I think that that is such an important piece. And over my time, in my entire life has been spent in shops, right? And so
Mhm.
when I look at it, And the amount of times that I've seen a really good technician almost hamstring their career because they're not good at communicating. They're really, really good at their job, but they really struggle with communication. And if they're frustrated with something, they struggle to communicate that properly. Or if they're, if maybe their personality is hard, like maybe they're not being the best teammate to the people that are around them. There are so many avenues or so many things where I've seen over the years that technicians have struggled with, technicians specifically, to get along with others. And I shouldn't just pick on technicians because I've seen this in a number of different industries, a number of different positions. But if you're a technician that's listening out there, or a student that happens to listen to Christian talk here, there's such a huge importance with that over the course of your career. And you could be as good as anybody else at your job, but if the perception is that you don't know how to communicate and it's a struggle to communicate with you, you're not going to go as far as you could. And so everything that you're talking about there, I think, is not only a good thing for students to listen to. I think that's good for any professional to listen to, because you're absolutely right. It is such a vital part to a successful career, and really making sure that you have that in mind. Skills USA has prepared you to do that as you go out into your life. I can't overemphasize how big of a deal that is. Great point, Christian.
And just for example, if you're a technician and you're looking to move up within your dealership or within your local shop, or maybe you work for a franchise shop, if you're looking to progress through the company or you're looking to get a promotion, there you could be as good of a technician. You can have your ASE Master Tech certifications. You can have all the certifications in the world. But if you're a bad teammate and there's a negative stigma around working with you, you're not the person they're going to go looking for the promotion. If I was running my own shop and I had two technicians and they were my final two candidates for a promotion. One of them could tear an engine down in and out with his eyes closed, and the other one might not have been that skilled with his hands, but he's a good leader within the shop. He's a good teammate. He's easy to work with. He's easy to get along with. I'm going to give the promotion to the guy that's easy to get along with. And I've seen so many good technicians coming up, and I see them fail within growing and progressing through their company because they don't have these proper communication skills, because they weren't involved with Skills USA, or they weren't involved with anything that allowed them to learn and grow with their personal communication skills.
Are you sure you're not out of high school yet? That sounds like you've been in the industry for 25 years saying that. That's impressive.
Well, so one of the things with me is I'm a lot closer with a lot more people that are way above my age range. I find it a lot easier to talk to people that are way older than me and way advanced in years. So when I was a freshman, I spent most of my time hanging out with seniors in my class and seniors in my school. And if I was on the weekends and we were out and we were in one of the shops working on something, everybody there was like 17, 18, 19. I was 14 years old.
Something tells me you probably got along with those. You could get along with about anybody, I think. But that maturity level is super, super impressive. This week's episode of Beyond the Wrench is brought to us by Jasper Engines and Transmissions. Okay, your customer's engine or transmission has failed, but now is not the time for them to trade their vehicle. Not without a working engine or transmission. Besides, would they have kept their vehicle another 3 to 5 years if their engine or transmission had not let them down? If you answered yes, then Jasper Engines and Transmissions is your choice to give your customer's vehicle new life and many thousands of miles of enjoyable driving performance. When considering the high cost of a new or newer used vehicle, there's a pretty good case to be made for replacing a drivetrain component that has failed or is delivering poor performance. Rather than trading their car, truck, van, or SUV, install a quality remanufactured Jasper product for less than your customer would have to invest in a new vehicle or a newer used vehicle. Check out their website at jasperengines.com to learn more about the money-saving value of Jasper. Now, speaking of maturity level, you've been in Skills all 4 years, right? You started off as a freshman. What was the hook for you when you were looking at this? And it's going to take you some time. It's going to take you, some over and above type of activities to do this. What was it that really captured your attention?
So my involvement story with Skills USA is a lot different than what you would assume. Most people, when they hear that I'm involved with Skills USA, they'll think, "Oh, I was taking automotive classes, I liked it, and I just progressed through Skills USA from there." But before I started in Skills USA, I was an athlete. I was a football player, and then I was out there on the lake with some of my friends, and my mom was pulling me on a giant hot dog tube. It was a giant inflatable hot dog tube, and we were tubing, and then there was a giant wave coming from one of those wake surf boats that throw the giant waves, and the hot dog literally jumped up out of the air and it folded up in half, and I hit this part of my head right here on the back of my
Oh,
buddies. I was 4 millimeters away from dying on impact. I uh I had a
oh,
skull fracture, multiple brain bleeds, nasty concussion to go along with everything, and
oh
I
my.
yep. So I was airlifted from a local ER to a pediatric neurotrauma center in Greenville, North Carolina, with East Carolina University. And
Wow.
when I was there, I was talking to them, and they told me, they said, "Yeah, you don't need to do any of these physical contact activities anymore because you're at such a high risk to get re-injured. And
Yeah.
if I get hit in that right spot again, that's it for me."
Wow.
And I came back to school, and I was still having really bad headaches from everything, and I was very upset because a lot of the stuff that I was so used to doing, I had to stay away from. And I was talking to my automotive teacher. I was like, "Yeah, like this, I don't know what I'm gonna do with my time anymore. I dedicated so much time and doing everything and it was all taken away from me like that. Everything that I thought that I had going for me was just wiped away immediately."
Mm.
And he said, "Well, you're a pretty strong student. I think you're a good technician. You ever heard of Skills USA?" I was like, "No, sir, I haven't." So he brought me into Skills USA. My first competition was automotive tool ID because we had a lot of our upperclassmen that were competing in the MLRs and stuff like that. So I did automotive tool ID my first year, and I went to our regional competition and I competed, and I fell in love with it from there. I met so many awesome people. Even the judges, talking to the judges of the different competitions and everything was just so great. And I was like, "Yep, this is where I need to be." So I got more involved in it. And then my sophomore year, I was a chapter officer. And then we were getting ready to head out to our National Leadership and Skills Conference. And we were doing a totally unrelated to automotive competition. It was called Opening and Closing Ceremonies. Has nothing to do with automotive. I don't know how our school got started in it. I'm not really familiar with all that. But I was competing in that. I was a fill-in because one of the team members couldn't go to nationals. So I had to learn everything about that competition. And then we were having a meeting about fundraising to go because it was about $10,000 for the seven of us to go. So we were in a meeting about that, and right before, one of the boys on our team said, "Hey, I gotta pull the transmission out of my truck." So I said, "Okay, yeah, I can help you with that before the meeting starts." So we have the truck on the lift, and we're pulling the transmission out, and those transmission jacks are very flimsy and
Yeah.
everything. And so we had the transmission on, and the transmission fell off of the stand, and it caught my hand in between the concrete floor, and I had 14 stitches in my middle finger. They thought I had broken my hand, but I didn't. I had scratches all the way up my arm from where it had slid down my arm. And it was in a 94, 1500 pickup truck. It was not a little transmission at all. And that sucked. It hurt
Yeah.
pretty bad. But so we did that, and then I was like, "Oh, I can't go to nationals this year. I don't know what I'm gonna do," but I fought through it and I worked through it, and I attended NLSC with 14 stitches in my finger and competed in a competition. So we have part of the Skills USA emblem. So I competed in a competition to where we had to hold this piece of the emblem up. So I'm holding it like this. Oh, you can't see my hand, but I'm holding
I
it
can
like
kind of
this,
see it. Yeah.
and I had a giant wrap around my finger from that. So my finger was like hanging off to the side like that, and it was digging into the side of the poster and everything. And then I thought to myself there after we competed, I said, "Well, if I can work through this, I have no mobility in my finger at all right now. If I can work through that, I feel like I can work through about everything."
I
So
would say.
yep. So after that, I was very interested in leadership positions and everything. So I applied to become a state officer, which is just a representative of North Carolina's SkillsUSA program. And I gave a speech on stage. I was absolutely terrified. Believe it or not, I'm talking a
It's
lot
good
right
for
now,
you.
but I
It's
was
good for you, though.
absolutely terrified. And I had a script wrote down. I was going to follow my script, but I get on stage and I start digging around in my pockets and everything. And I'm like, uh-oh. My script was sitting in my hotel room. So I get up on
Learn
stage.
improv really
Yep,
fast that way.
yep. So I improvised something. I started talking about all these different, these injuries and these battles and everything. And I started talking about that. And I did a couple onstage questions, and I won. I was shocked when they told me that I won. I was like, "There's no way I just pulled that off." I didn't even know what I was talking about. I was just up there running my mouth, and somehow I got it. And I had access to so many different professional development workshops through being a state officer. And as my year as a state officer was coming to a close, I was like, I said, I'm not ready to hang it up yet. I feel like I still have so much more to learn, so much more to do. So I applied for the national officer position. And I can't talk too much about that right now because we have upcoming national officer candidates. So I don't want to give them too much insight. I think the program was very beneficial in learning as you go. So I don't want to get too much into that, but it was a very lengthy
Yeah.
process. I started in January of 2025 and I didn't finish until the middle of May 2025.
Wow.
Very lengthy, peculiar process. And I went to NLSC again that year and I campaigned and I, you know, sold myself to everybody pretty much. And then I won that. And that was another improv speech. I didn't forget the script that time, but I was reading the
You
script.
just
I was
did
like,
it.
I don't know if I like what I wrote down. 'Cause I'm very impulsive. I changed my mind about everything at the last minute. I was like, well, if I did it once, maybe I can do it again. And I must not have done too bad. So I won
I,
that. But now, as a national officer, I've not only seen the impact of Skills USA and the impact of career and technical education and the skilled trades, not only just in North Carolina, but I've seen how much of a positive impact this had on so many different students and even teachers that are working with these students across the nation. One of the most beneficial conversations that I've had, I was talking to an advisor at one of our training, or not one of our trainings, at one of our conferences. And this advisor was talking to me, and he said, I've learned more from these students and seeing what they have done through Skills USA than I have learned from any of the time that I spent in the industry. I think they were either in marine technology or aviation. It was one of those two. They
pretty cool,
said
though.
they said, I've been in the industry 20 plus years. I've learned so much more from these students than I ever did in the industry. And that just seeing that impact the Skills USA can have on everybody, not just students, was really, I knew that I'd made the right choice.
Well, I want to go back and pick something out of your story here, just briefly. That I want to give you a huge compliment because I think when you had sports taken away from you, which can be really devastating, right? Especially at that age that you kind of eat, sleep, breathe sports, and all your friends are in it, and you're just kind of it. When you get that taken away from you, I have to imagine that's a really hard time in your life, and
Mhm.
I think it would have been really easy to just go, hey, I'm going to go chill out on the PlayStation for the next 4 years and not apply myself, but for you to look for things to kind of occupy your time that are productive and really something that's going to help you long term. I give you a lot of credit for that because I think at that stage that's a really easy time to just say I'm just going to chill out now. That kind of I got screwed over there. I don't want to do that anymore. I'm gonna have fun.
Yeah.
You're having fun. You're doing it in a different way than a lot of
Yeah.
people do, and I that's a big compliment to you.
Yeah. Well, that also comes with my background and my family and everything. So, being around people that one of the best quotes that I've ever heard is leaders, they don't wait for the right moment to come, they make the moment for themselves.
Mm,
And I knew when I had that taken away with there's never going to be a right time to find something different. There's never going to be a good time to try something different. It's now or never when it comes to creating something for yourself. So I searched around and I looked through many opportunities and different things. I was working full time I was training. I don't know if you're familiar with duck hunting. I'm maybe,
little.
but a lot of people who duck hunt, they like to run the dogs, and they'll get the
Oh yeah,
dogs to go and retrieve the birds and everything. And I was working full time with a company that was training those dogs to chase birds and everything like that. And
that'd be cool.
it sounds fun until you got 40 of them and they're sitting there barking at you, waiting to get fed. It sounds fun until it isn't. But I was doing that, and not only was I working full time and I was coming home from the day and I was tired, but I was also, after I would get off of work, I'd go and I would work on my Skills USA stuff and work on my speech for the state officer that I left it conveniently in the hotel room. But I knew that there was so many opportunities out there that I couldn't just sit around and wait for something to pop up, and I had to make this moment for myself. And
Mm,
that's what I hope people see when they see me doing podcasts like this or public speaking at events. Our event in Atlanta, Georgia, our National Leadership and Skills Conference, there's going to be projected over 20,000 people attending. So I hope that there's students out there in the audience that maybe feel a little bit lost, or maybe something's happened and they're not really sure where to go or what they need to do. But I hope that they can see this and, hear my story about everything and say, hey, he didn't wait for something to pop up. He went and he found something and he made the moment out of it. And that's a problem with a lot of rural areas like this, is so many people just feel trapped in doing whatever their father done or whatever the people around them are doing. And that's why a lot of people around me get in the automotive industry, is because it's what their dad did or it's what their granddad did. And, they feel kind of locked in to doing the same thing and just repeating history. But I want people to realize that there's so many great opportunities out there, and to just look and search and find. And when you get the opportunity, you can't let it go. You
yeah.
gotta put, however hard you think you're working, you gotta work harder.
So much good there in everything you just said. Again, want to pull something else out of what you just said, where a good life habit that you probably unknowingly created when you talked about going home and working on your Skills USA stuff is that you did it after a long day of work. And I think so many people that are professionals that have been in this industry or any industry for a long time, where they fail to recognize is kind of going that extra mile, right? It's
Mm.
yes, it's can be really tiring to work your 9 to 5 job, but that extra work that you put in at night and the things that you're doing to progress your career are the things that ultimately end up making you stand out from the crowd, right? And
Mm.
I think just hearing that you were putting in that extra time, you're doing those extra things at night and things that you signed up to do. It wasn't like it was forced upon you. You signed up and you wanted to do those things. To me, that does it has such a big impact on creating a work ethic
Yep.
and creating, a mindset that you're just constantly trying to get better. And man, that's refreshing to hear. That is so
Yeah.
cool. And I'm so proud of you for doing that. That is awesome.
My mom, she's always been very interested in marine biology. She never worked anything related to it. It's just one of her little hobbies or whatever. And she told me one time that a shark, that, they stop breathing when they're not moving. And she said that she thinks I'm more comparable to a shark than anything, because if I'm not moving and I'm not doing anything, apparently I've created that mindset that I'll die if I'm not doing something or I'm not moving all the time.
It's a good way to
But
be.
that, but I feel like that's a good mindset to have, especially so young, because not necessarily for some people, but for, where I come from, everybody in my family has done such huge things and they've done so many different things. And I'm not the kind to want to live in somebody else's shadow. I want to be in my own spotlight. So, coming home from school and then going straight to work after school and then working until about 8, 9 o'clock with everybody, and then coming home from then and then getting home and, just having that feeling of, man, I'm so tired. I just want to lay down and go to sleep. But, almost working through that was because of the dedication I had to do something for myself.
Oh, that'll do you really, really well in your
Mhm.
life. Just that point alone, where you're tired and rather than laying down, you just kind of push through it. That
Yep.
that is a huge, huge thing. So, a lot of credit there. Now, as you look forward with your Skills USA involvement, this has obviously had a big impact on
Mhm.
you. What do you see for your future involvement with it? Obviously, you're a senior in high school. How do you kind of parlay this into more?
I would love to see this organization grow beyond what we're already at. We're not a small organization by any means. We represent over 444,000 people across the nations and three
It's wild.
territories as well. We're such a big organization, but when you compare that 444,000 to the 8 billion people that are in the world, those other people, they're I want them to all have the same opportunity to go and connect with people and meet people and learn these skills that all of our current members are already learning and already picking up on. Just seeing this organization grow and just having more people become involved with it and learning these skills and growing in their industry and hiring people through Skills USA because of the impact that it's had on them, that's something big for me. Because one of the greatest things that I hear from a lot of industry leaders that we have from there is if we're looking at candidates to hire and we see Skills USA on that resume, we're going with Skills USA every single time. That is one of the most refreshing things to hear because I know deep down that the work that this organization puts in to progress and help all of these members grow across the nation, is very refreshing to hear that people in the industry are seeing this growth that Skills USA is providing. And with my goal after I graduate and I'm no longer a national officer anymore, is I want to still be involved with this organization and still help it grow and kind of be one of those success stories that comes for it. So, hey, I had, what I thought was my entire life stripped from me at such a young age. And then I found Skills USA and it's helped me get here.
Mm,
I
man,
want people to hear that story and just feel inspired and moved by that, and then them take that same action, and then them go way further than I've gone. 'Cause
I,
I don't want
I
people to grow to my level. I want people to grow past my level. That's the goal there.
that is awesome. And I do think the more Skills USA kind of keeps compounding and keeps adding more folks like you that are, similar mindset, want to get better and want to work on some skills as they go through their high school journeys. I've seen over time so many success stories that have come as a result of it, and even some of those kids that, as you mentioned earlier, might not have that direct path in life to know what is next for them or what they should be doing. Just getting that exposure to the professional world and seeing what you like, maybe what you don't like, right? Just because you look at an industry and think it's cool doesn't necessarily mean you're going to like working in it. So
Yep.
like just getting that firsthand exposure to the people, to the industry as a whole, I don't think there's a better way than that, right? Like especially for a young person to make the right choice for them and what their future is going to be.
And that's why Skills USA is such a good thing because I'm very automotive centered, love automotive, love it with everything in me. But a lot of people don't think like that, and a lot of people don't feel that same way. But with Skills USA, we're representative of every career cluster in the world. If there is a career, Skills USA has something for you.
Hmm.
And just, based off of that, it gives students thousands on thousands on thousands of different opportunities to try different industries and grow in different areas. And maybe you compete in something in 4 years and you know that you're not going to enter that industry. Skills USA is also providing you with other skills that can apply in every single other area, your leadership, your teamwork, your communication skills. Those skills are not only important just for that specific industry that you're competing in, but they're specific for every industry. Any industry, Skills USA has something for you.
Let's talk about your next steps. You're off to college soon.
Yep. So I'm a very strong advocate for college is not the only way to go. College is not necessarily the best way to go. And a lot of people feel that way, and I completely understand. And I have so much more respect for people that are going into just going straight to work or going to community college or going to a career tech. But with what I want to do and the things that I feel are in my best interest with public speaking and meeting with people and traveling and everything like that, I feel 4 year university is the way to go for me. So I'll be attending NC State in the fall for marketing, and I want to get into the automotive industry yet again. More not necessarily on the application side, but selling these products and selling these services that are so important for people to apply into their daily lives.
Well, I think similar to me, right? I did go to a tech school, but then found out afterwards that the technical side wasn't where I was supposed to be at. I just
Mhm.
wasn't strong at it. and probably similar to your dad in that regard too, where it was I was good at talking to people, but not
Yep.
necessarily the actual application of it
Mhm.
of working on a vehicle. The beauty in this industry is that there are avenues for everybody, right?
Yep.
There are different ways that you can go, different routes you can go, and I'm really happy to hear that you're going that route, and that's the
Yep.
best route for you. Um, Wolfpack in general,
Mhm.
it's a great school,
Yep.
and I'm sure you're excited to get rolling
Yes, sir.
there.
So that's another one of the things that's really funny about everybody thinking that a four-year university is a universal fit is that most of the people that attend a four-year university, they don't apply their degrees into their daily lives at all. My dad, he has an associate's degree from NC State in turf management. He
Hmm.
wanted to go and do grass for golf courses. And my mom, she got a degree from East Carolina University in education. And she has run restaurants and, music joints and stuff like that. They don't very often use their four-year degrees in their daily application. So I feel like four-year university being a universal fit for everybody is definitely not true at all. And attending somewhere like a career tech or a community college, that that has a better chance of allowing students to succeed because they're studying something they're actually interested in. So I have a buddy of mine, his parents pushed and pushed and pushed for him to go to a four-year university, but that's just not what he's interested in. And he's at our local community college. He's getting his associate's degree in welding, and he's gonna go. Right now, he's doing an internship with a sign company, and he's welding large signs for businesses and things like that. And he's doing that, and he's learning about the industry, and he's progressing through the industry. He was also a SkillsUSA competitor. There was 20 people applying for the job that he has right now, or the internship that he has right now, and he was a SkillsUSA alumni because he graduated in December. So everything that he learned from SkillsUSA, he told me that he applied that into his interview, and he was the one that walked away with the job. And now,
Mm.
while he's still in school, he might not have been the best welder, that was one of the candidates. He seemed the most professional. He seemed like the easiest to get along with, and he seemed like the best to work with. And that is why I think that he got the job over everybody else.
Couldn't agree more. I think all of those skills are incredibly valuable,
Mhm.
obviously, but then just having the polish and having the professionalism
Mhm.
and everything that goes along with it. I do hope if you're a student that's out there listening that you take this seriously and that you look at Skills USA as a way to kind of give you an advanced path into the professional world, because I don't know that there's a better way to do that in terms of really kind of preparing yourself for that next step in your life. And you've done a phenomenal job with that, Christian. I do have a few fun questions here as we end the episode, and more of a kind of get to know you sense.
Mhm.
But the okay, so first question, let's do this. What's your favorite food
Oof.
or type of food?
So I'm from the South. You know what chicken pastry is?
I don't know if I know what chicken pastry
It's a
is.
very Southern home style food. Love chicken pastry. It's something that my mom's always cooked when I was growing up.
All right.
But I think the most general food that I really enjoy eating, like Japanese food. I'm
Yeah.
not sure what it's called everywhere, but our local Japanese restaurant, there's this thing. It's called a jumping roll. It's a sushi roll. It's fried on the outside. It's got crab, spicy mayo, and all that good stuff inside of it. Japanese
I'm
food,
hungry right
it's
now. That sounds
great.
good.
Yeah, I'm about to tell you, I'm probably gonna go get me something to eat after this. But just from where I'm from and everything, chicken pastry is my go-to. Has been since I was
I
little.
like, good to know. Good to know. Are you a night owl or a morning person?
Night owl. Night owl
Night owl.
100%. If you couldn't tell from the, getting home at about 9 o'clock and then staying up later working on everything, I wake up in the morning, I feel like a zombie. Because that's probably because I stayed up all night doing everything that I was supposed to do during the day that I didn't get time to get to. But, I just find it so much easier to work on everything at night.
Yeah, I have a little bit of that myself.
Yep.
This is probably easier for you than most guests that we have, but what was your first car?
So it's parked outside in the driveway right now. I have a I have a 2010 Camaro. It's a SS with the 2S upgraded package on it. It was a pace car for the Indy 500. There was
No way.
299 of them made ever. On the headrest of the car, the Indianapolis 500 logo stitched into it, and underneath the the Camaro logo on the side, I have the Indianapolis 500 emblem on there. But I've got it pretty tuned up and everything. I've got long tube headers with cat deletes. It runs to an X pipe and it just runs straight out of the back, so it's super loud. I put a sound system in it. I've got a pretty nice setup of wheels on there that I bought over the summer because I was working for a hog farm, totally unrelated to automotive. But I was working for a hog farm. That was awful. That was more power to everybody that can do that. Is not for me at all. But I, saved up all summer. I bought myself a nice set of they're the ZL1 replica wheels.
Nice.
The Camaros with the supercharger on it. I bought a set of the ZL1 replica wheels, and I've got a cam kit and a full engine top end rebuild kit at the top of my list for things I want to buy for it. I have it dyno tuned. I have the dyno sheet sitting over there from when I took it to a place to get it tuned, and
What'd you get?
On it. I just got it tuned on 93 pump gas with the headers and the cat deletes. It changed how much air was getting out of the motor, and there wasn't enough fuel getting in there. So I just got that fuel mixture, or the air fuel ratio dialed in on that, and got it tuned on that 93 pump gas. But it's pretty quick, and it's not super fast. I'm making about 400 horsepower to the crank or to the wheels, but not bad at all for how much I have put in.
No, not bad at all, and it's cool. I would I think one regret that a lot of people have over time is they sell their stuff off. If you get a chance to be able to keep it,
I
think you'll really be happy about that decision in 20 or 30 years if you're able to hang on to it.
The only thing I'm not happy with right now is the miles per gallon. Gas is very expensive right now. I'm running on 93. It's $4 to $5 depending on what gas station I go to. And the town that I live so close to is right off of Interstate 95. So gas is so expensive out there.
Crazy.
And I'm looking about $4.50 per usual, about $4.50 something for gas. And I'm at the gas pump twice a week. Not fun right now, but if I could find something for a good deal that gets maybe some better gas mileage, I'll definitely hold on to that. But I'm doing everything in my power not to sell that car.
You got to get that daily driver old car that you can like beater. That gets the good gas mileage.
Yep, that's the only thing stopping me from ordering that cam kit. If I get that cam, its gas mileage is going down. I'm already getting like 10 to 12 right now. That cam kit would probably put me at 7 to 8, depending on how they tune it. I can't afford 7 to 8 miles per gallon right now, being in high school still and traveling around and everything. That limits how much time I get to put in at work. So gas is a struggle, but we're working on it. I get by paying for it. So
I can tell the passion in your voice. Something tells me there's maybe going to be, even though you're going to school for marketing, a little technical sprinkled into your life as you move forward. And I hope it's in the automotive industry. I really do, because you're such a bright spot in this. You can be a bright spot in this industry, and just what a joy to talk to. I have really enjoyed our hour that we have got to talk together here, and wish you nothing but the best of luck in graduation and in college. And don't be a stranger. We'll have to have you back on after a few years and kind of see how life's going for you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I really appreciate it.
That wraps up another episode of Beyond the Wrench. If you like this episode, please show your support by rating and following the podcast. You can also watch the video interviews on WrenchWay's YouTube channel. Speaking of WrenchWay, Beyond the Wrench is managed and produced by the WrenchWay team. WrenchWay is dedicated to promoting and improving careers in the automotive, diesel, and collision industries. In partnership with ASE, we run the ASE Connects community, which empowers shops and dealerships with reliable data, school connections, and industry insights while helping grow the future technician workforce. You can learn more by visiting wrenchway.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.